Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, starting on this 1 day time frame for Bitcoin, because obviously right now we are seeing a massive pump to the upside. So it looks like we did it again. We got another perfect bounce from the bottom of this descending channel here. And in this video, I kind of want to go over the short term for Bitcoin, because in the case that you missed it, in yesterday's video, I talked about the longer term analysis for Bitcoin. So go check that out if you haven't seen it yet. However, in this video, I'm just going to keep it to the short term and just give you a quick update after we are now seeing this big bounce and what you should be looking out for in the charts here. So first of all, taking a look at this 4-hour time frame, here you can see this descending channel on the 4-hour time frame, which we are currently breaking out of. And as you can see, we already have 1 out of 3 signals here in terms of confirming the actual breakout, because we have a big spike in volume on this candle here where we are breaking out. So that is already 1 out of 3 signals here. The second thing to look out for when you're checking for a real breakout, or if it is actually a fake out, is getting confirmed candle closes above the point of the breakout. Now, in this case, this candle is going to close in about 50 minutes. So although it is definitely possible to get a bit of a retrace here, I think it is quite unlikely that we are going to see a full retracement here below the trend line once again in the next 50 minutes here. So then we would have that second confirmation signal. And lastly, the third thing to look out for when you're confirming a breakout is actually getting the breakout, then coming back down to actually retest the trend line and flip it from resistance into a level of support, and basically getting a bounce off of there. And as soon as you see this bounce, you have another confirmation that the breakout is actually real. Although do keep in mind that not every breakout is going to have all 3 of these. So it could just be the case that we are going to get this big spike in volume and confirmed candle closes above here, and that is all we will have to do with. But of course, the less confirmation you have, the more risk you're taking on. So that is just something to keep in mind. But although for now, it is looking pretty good, and it looks like we are potentially heading much higher for Bitcoin, although we are not fully out of the woods yet. Because if we go to the Bitcoin CME futures exchange here, you can see that we still have this CME gap right here, sitting as low as about 52.9K. Now, in the case that you don't know, typically over 90% of CME gaps actually get filled, although it doesn't have to be right away. But one thing that is definitely clear here is that this CME gap was not filled. So on Friday last week, we closed again at about 52.9K. And on Monday, we actually opened at 54.4K. So this is a gap that was created. And therefore, it is very likely that at some point, Bitcoin is coming to fill the CME gap. And that isn't just me hoping that we come down here or something. I would prefer actually for the price to go up to the top of the descending channel once again. However, historically, CME gaps tend to get filled, and therefore I'm just telling you that this is a data point that you should take into consideration. Although, of course, if we are seeing a big pump to the upside like we are seeing right now, you should definitely be cautious shorting something like that, because again, you can get a repeat of what happened here, where you get this 15% pump to the upside before actually filling the CME gap at some point. Either way, if we now take a look at the MACD indicator for Bitcoin, this is also flashing a decrease of the bearish momentum. So potentially we could be coming down to actually flip back into bullish territory here for the MACD indicator. Although, yeah, I mean, to be honest, this MACD indicator can literally do something like this. So it isn't a very reliable indicator in that sense. For example, you can see that right here where, yeah, a lot of people probably got faked out on this indicator. And therefore, you should not only rely on one indicator. However, if we do take a look at the RSI momentum indicator for Bitcoin, we got an exact higher low confirmed, as I talked about in recent videos here. And what this means is that we got an exaggerated bullish divergence here in the charts, which is a specific type of bullish divergence that is less common, but it is a bullish divergence nonetheless, where we have horizontal lows and we have a higher low in the RSI momentum indicator. And sometimes this indicates a trend reversal for Bitcoin. So as long as this does not get invalidated, potentially this could actually already be a reversal signal here. So the key price level to kind of pay attention to is basically the low that we saw twice here. Let's say roughly 53.7K on the 1 day time frame. Just look for those candle closes where it was exactly. So either a candle close below or breaking this trend line here with a confirmed close as well. Both of these would invalidate the exaggerated bullish divergence. And in that case, it completely opens the door to bearish price action once again. So that is something to watch out for in the charts. Now, as I talked about in recent videos as well, we held this 0.236 Fibonacci level sitting at 53.9K. And after that, we pumped perfectly to this 0.382 Fibonacci level sitting at 57,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price, where we are now facing some resistance in the short term. One thing I want to add to this is that this might be something where we get rejected from in the short term. Of course, after that, we could go higher, but it is important to understand that this 57K level is going to be quite significant for Bitcoin to actually break. And one other thing you may notice is that if we take a look at the RSI momentum indicator on the 1 hour time frame, this is now starting to reach into overbought territory for Bitcoin. So yes, even though it can go higher here on the 1 hour time frame, at some point you will start to see this RSI kind of reset back down to around the 50 level here, because then we have more room to go to the upside once again. And in the case that you are not familiar with how this RSI actually works, basically the RSI resets back down either by some choppy sideways price action, in which case the RSI will trend down like this, or by actually getting some bearish momentum. So in this case, it might be a rejection from this 57K level, in which case the RSI would trend down more quickly and even go below this 50 level here. Because whenever we are below the 50 level, it means that we are seeing a bearish momentum on that specific time frame. Now, in the case that we actually break through this 57K level, then the next Fibonacci resistance is going to be at 59.5K for the Bitcoin price. And if we take a look at the 4 hour RSI, there is still a little bit of room to the upside here. And of course, as I said, you can also go quite deep into overbought territory as well before needing to reset back down. So by that time, we might actually already be at that 59K level. So I'm just telling you about some important levels of resistance to pay attention to in the short term here. Now, one other thing that is quite interesting on the 4 hour time frame is that after we saw this bounce from the big level of support that I talked about many times on the channel here, we got this bounce and are now reaching into this level here that I haven't marked as a level of support nor as a level of resistance, because basically after we fell down below this here, we never came back up to actually retest if this is a level of resistance. So in this case, since we haven't been rejected from this yet, I haven't marked it as a level of resistance, because it is completely possible here that we actually just blast straight through this level. And we had something quite similar in the charts here recently as well. It was right here when we blasted through it, and I had this marked in white at the time because I said, guys, we haven't tested this as a level of support yet, so we can just fall straight through it. And not too long after that, we fell straight through it right into this next level of support at the time, right? So that is something important to note here as well. Although if we get that rejection from 57K or 58K even, whatever it may be, if we see a rejection before 58,000 US dollars in the short term, then we can confidently say that this is now a level of resistance and that we should be cautious when we are trading in this range here, watching out for a potential rejection back down. Now, lastly, taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map for today. First of all, on this 1 week time frame for Bitcoin, as you can see right here, we already took out $700 million worth of short positions here, because these were people that were very late to shorting Bitcoin basically on this downtrend. So 1 day ago, I am a perma bull, and a day later, I'm showing you $700 million worth of short liquidations. Now, one thing we can also take a look at is actually the big level of liquidity right here, sitting at 57.7K, because we have over $900 million worth of short liquidations at this level here as well. We also have even more liquidity sitting at 58.5K. So this might also be a level that the Bitcoin price gets attracted to. But as I said here earlier as well, we are either in or reaching into overbought territory on the 1 hour time frame, like these lower time frames here. We might need to cool off a little bit here in the immediate short term, and then eventually come up to grab this liquidity, potentially right above 57,000 US dollars on a wick or something, or even this liquidity all the way up here. if we actually break that 57K level confidently, at least on the 4-hour time frame. Although at the same time, we must keep in mind that there's liquidity to the downside sitting as low as about 51.8K for the Bitcoin price. And there's also liquidity at around 53.5K, as well as that CME gap that I talked about here earlier in the video, which is also something quite noteworthy here in my opinion. So this has been today's market update. Don't forget to come check out the Road to 1 Million community on Discord. I left a link in the video description. I might also leave a link in the comments down below so you can join more easily. It is completely free and it is a very active community of people that are trading crypto every single day with over 1,500 people in there. So definitely come check it out if you're interested. Either way, if you do end up joining or not, thank you for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.